Want to turn your Telegram into a 24/7 AI video studio? By the end of this video, you'll learn how to build an AI agent workflow that takes photo or image inputs from Telegram, grabs your video idea, and turns it into a ready-to-generate prompt automatically. Perfect for creators, marketers, or anyone who wants to pump out AI videos without lifting a finger. In this video, we're going to build a workflow which gets triggered when a Telegram message or an upload image is received, and pass the uploaded photo to an image-to-video generation model like Seedance or VO3 to create a video based off the image. Let's dive in and build. Alright, jumping right into the build. The first trigger that you want to hit in this case is the Telegram trigger, because we want the workflow to be triggered by a Telegram event. So in this case, it's an on-message Telegram event. So we want to be able to communicate with the bot simply from a Telegram chat, so that we don't have to actually go into the workflow and do anything from the workflow by the time it's done. So I already have my Telegram account set up here. In fact, I've got a bunch of them. But what I'm going to do here, I'm going to do a quick demo of how to connect it to your Telegram app. If you haven't done so before, I do have a separate video for it. Check it out. I'll link it up here and down here as well. But essentially, just go to Botfather, and how you would do this is you just type in the search bar, Botfather, make sure it's the right one, the one with the blue tick, and click on Start. What you'll see is a bunch of options here. What Botfather does is it creates a bot within Telegram, and this is not to be confused with your bot within n8n. This is a bot that lives within your Telegram chat and listens to your chat and enable your communication from Telegram to the n8n workflow. In this case, where you want to go is you want to hit /new bot, and it's going to ask you what you're going to call the new bot. And in this case, I want to say image to video. All right, so I'm going to call it that, and I'm going to say image to video bot as the name of the bot. All right, so username is invalid. I think it's quite a common username, so I'm just going to call it n8n mark and bot. And there you go. So the bot has been created. This is a link to chat with the bot, and this is actually the API key that you want to click on and that you can copy by going back to your Telegram workflow. Sorry, I'll just open that up again and create a new credential and paste the access token, which is the API key. So just paste the access or API token here and click on save. And essentially you would have your Telegram connected with the app. Okay, all right, still testing there. Okay, so you want to wait for the green bar to come up, and that tells you that it's connected. So now you're connected. Okay, in order to test it out, what you want to do is just go back to the chat and click on this link here. And essentially, this is a link to chat with the bot, and you can say hello. But in this case, there's automatic message of /start. So if you go back to your workflow, I'm just going to hit execute step. It's going to read the last message, which is the /start. So you can see there's a bunch of data here, but where we want to pay attention to is really the text output, which is the /start. All right, so that's the Telegram trigger. And the next node that you want to hit is the if node. So the reason why we want to hit the if node is because if you think about the way you want to use this chat is you want to tell the bot two things basically, right? So the first one is the prompt to the video. You want to tell it what is your idea for the video. Let's say if you give it an image of a puppy, you want to be able to tell it, hey, I want the puppy to fly, or I want the puppy to be munching on something, or I want the puppy to be doing something, right? So you want to be able to tell it that. So that'll be in text. And the second input is the image of the puppy that the AI is going to work off from. So what you want to do in that case is you want to make sure that the workflow can accept these two different types of input and be able to do the appropriate actions depending on which input that is. So just for example, what I'll do is I'm going to upload a photo, and this is actually the default photo from WaveSpeed when I'm about to use the Seedance API, but I'm just going to use the image. And this is the image of the puppy that I'm going to upload. And when I hit execute workflow, what happens is that it's coming in with different types of format in terms of input. There is this photo arrays, which if you look at the execution log previously, did not exist when it was just strings. So as you can see, there were no photos arrays. So what you want to do on the if node is that you want to drag this photo array over here and basically say that if this array does not exist, then what happens is you want to connect it to an AI agent node, right? Because that means what you're receiving is just text, which is a user just chatting with the AI agent. And you want to make sure that the AI agent then can respond accordingly to those texts and strings and video prompts. So in this case, we would say that the prompt user that's coming from here would be from the Telegram trigger. We want to just do another execute flow, or we can basically go back to executions and go back to the first execution, which was the /start, which is a string. Or you can also just do an execute workflow and just type in another set of strings. But in this case, you can just copy this to the editor, and basically it will, I'm just going to execute this again. And this time it's going to go to the true branch, because what happens is this is now just a text input without a photo array input, because it's not uploading any photos. And essentially on the if node, what happens is it's not detecting any photo arrays basically, so it does not exist, which is true. So it hits the AI agent node in this case. Now then we can drag the content of the message into the prompt for the AI agent, and then we'll format the system message in a little bit, but essentially you want to do the same thing here, just connect it with an LLM of your choice. In this case, I've got my OpenAI account created already and connected. So if you want to know how to do that's your first time, then you can check my video up here. I'll link it. But essentially, in this case, I will use GPT 4.1 mini as the LLM and add just a simple memory with a context window of 5. And I want to define the key, or rather the session ID, as the chat ID, and just drag it in that way. But before I continue setting up the AI agent node, what I want to do here first, just so that it makes sense to you guys sequentially, I want to set what happens when the if node turns out to be false. In this case, that the photo arrays do exist. And what that essentially means is that somebody or the user has uploaded the photos to the Telegram chat. And in this case, what we want to do is we want to hit the Telegram get node, or rather get file. And the reason why we want to do this is because, as you can see, and let me just go back. I want to go back to executions. Go to the second execution where I've actually uploaded a photo. All right, and copy that to the editor, because basically I want to make use of all the data that was populated earlier. So as you can see, just open it up again. So you can see I'm receiving this photo array, right? And we're going to rerun this node here. And it's going to be a false branch because the photo arrays do exist. Again, the check was it does not exist. Do exist, and it goes to the Telegram get file. In this case, we want to paste the file ID here. The reason why we're doing all of this is because the data that we're getting at this point is just a file ID. And this file ID is native to Telegram. So it doesn't mean anything to external apps outside of Telegram. So what we want to do is to be able to download this image and put it into some form of repository, so that later on when we're passing it off to a HTTP node to WaveSpeed API, in this case, which is the video generation model, it would pass on a public link that contains the image and not just the Telegram file ID, which means nothing to WaveSpeed API. So this is basically what we're doing. So we're going to drag the file ID here. Remember, and you might notice that within the photo arrays, there are a few objects here, and there's photo 0, photo 1, photo 2, and photo 3. But what you want to do is to make sure that you grab the lowest one, because the lowest one would have the highest resolution of the image. And this is just what Telegram does. It gives you a different version of the photos. And as you can see, photo 0, the file size is just 1.3 kilobytes. It's not going to be any good for video generation, so you want to skip that. Photo 1, slightly bigger size. Photo 2, even bigger, but you want to grab the lowest one, which means it has the highest file size and the best resolution. So I'm dragging photo 3, so just to make sure. All right, so I'm going to hit execute step to populate that data. So authorization failed here because I filled in the wrong credentials. So that's the right one. And there we go. So it's giving you a binary data here. of the image, and it's a pretty good size. If you click on download, you can actually look at the image, and yeah, it is an image of a puppy. So cool. All right, so the next node that we want to hit is the Google Drive node. And in this case, specifically, what we want to do is we want to upload a file, right? Because again, what we're doing here is we're getting the file ID from Telegram. We're telling Telegram to download the data in binary form, and we're going to upload that binary form data, which is the image, into the Google Drive of our choice, because that is the repository of choice for us to grab those images from later on before we pass it to the WaveSpeed API. Right. So in this case, my Drive account has been connected. If you don't know how to connect it, if this is your first time, also, I've done a separate video on this. I'll link it up here and down here. But in this case, where we want to go is that the first few fields have already been pre-configured and they're configured correctly. The operation is upload, and the input data field, we're going to leave this at data. The reason for that is because when we do a Telegram get node, the default name for our data is just simply data in all lowercase. So this is what we have here. So we don't need to change that. Now the file name is probably we want to be more specific about. So we want to say this is an image, and we'll toggle this to expression, image upload, and we want to put a timestamp possibly just to let us know when this image was uploaded. So I'm just going to drag the now variable. So essentially it's going to say image upload at this time, right? The parent drive that's connected is my drive, and the drive is basically named Telegram image upload to n8n. So we want to hit execute step here. And so you can see it's telling me that it's uploaded the image to the drive, to the folder in the drive. So we're going to head over to the folder. As you can see, it contains one image, which is the puppy image. So that's successful. So once we've done that, technically we already have what we need, which is the image hosted in a public repository. And of course, we need to change the sharing settings in your Google folder to be publicly available so that anyone can view it. What you want to do after that is to create a log so that the sub workflow later on would be able to fetch the URL link of the image and pass it to WaveSpeed API. In this case, we're going to choose append row in sheet as part of the Google Sheets operation. And the sheet that I've created is basically a simple image uploaded to Google Drive. This is where the URL is going to go. And then we have a date, which is just where the timestamp is going to go, right? So going back to the workflow, we're just going to choose from list, image to video log sheet. And the sheet itself, there's only one sheet, so it's just going to say sheet 1. All right. It's going to load the columns that are within the sheet. So is image uploaded on Google Drive. So we're going to drag basically the URL link, which is, in this case, there are a couple here, but what we're interested in is the web content link. So we're just going to drag and drop it here. And then the date is the same now variable. Just drag and drop it there. Cool. All right. Going to execute step here. And it should be populating the sheet. So let's go back, check out the sheet. There we go. So this is the link. Let's just make sure it's correct. There we go. It's showing the image here and the date when it was uploaded. Cool. So what we've done so far is that on the false branch of the workflow, it's taking care of the scenario when a photo has been uploaded to the Telegram chat. So it tells the workflow that when that happens, it's going to get the image uploaded to Google so that it's publicly reachable. At the same time, also populate the Google Sheet with a publicly reachable URL. All right, cool, so that's done. However, we need now to take care of the case when the Telegram chat is just getting a text input in the form of strings, right? So let's go back to the AI agent and finish setting that up. So what we want to do here, we're gonna have a call workflow tool. So we're gonna say is call this tool to create video from image, okay? So we're going to choose from database, and we're just going to create a sub workflow, okay? And we're going to name this image to video sub workflow. Cool. So with the sub workflow, there are a couple of options on how you want to receive the information that's passed on from the main workflow. In this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to define using fields below, and I'm going to add field. In this case, I want the video prompt, or rather video generation prompt, right, as a string. And that's essentially what I would expect from the master workflow, because if you go back to the main workflow, when it goes to this section, it's only going to receive a bunch of strings or a bunch of text from the user. So the user might say, hey, create a cat video of a cat flying through hoops of rainbows or stuff like that. And it would just create that, and it would just take that as a prompt. So it won't necessarily have the image URL, because the image URL actually rests in the Google Sheet. So what this agent does essentially is take the video idea from the user and create a prompt appropriate to that and pass it to this workflow. In this case, that string is going to be called the video generation prompt. Okay, so I'm going to delete this node. So before I continue completing the sub workflow, what I want to do is I want to go back to the main workflow so that just it all makes sense to you guys. Is that I'm going to add a think node here, a think tool, because it typically just helps the agent to think a little bit, basically introduce the reasoning step into the whole process. But I want to make sure that the main AI agent node is prompted correctly. So in this case, what I want to do is I want to add a system message. I'm going to do a system prompt, and it's a very basic system prompt, and you guys can probably do better by just putting it into ChatGPT, asking it to prompt engineer better system prompt than this. But since this is a quick demo, I just want to do a simple one. You're a video prompt agent for a video generation workflow. This doesn't have to be marketing. This could be just for fun. But your job is to obtain the video prompt information from the user and call or pass it to the sub workflow tool, create video. So it's as simple as that. But you see an error here, and you might be thinking, hey, why am I getting the error here? The reason for that is because under this if node, previously what happens was this is a photo upload, so it goes actually to the false branch and not to the true branch. But so it's showing that, and it's trying to fetch the json.message.text field, which does not exist in the case when photo is uploaded. It only exists when people are chatting to it, right? So in this case, I'm going to basically unpin the Telegram node, and I'm going to run this workflow again so that it populates it with a string. So in this case, I want to write just to give it some idea of what to do with the videos, right? Create a video of a puppy adorably munching on puppy food. All right, so I'm gonna hit that, and it's receiving the trigger, so it goes to the true branch, it goes to the AI agent. So there we go. It's receiving that, as you can see now it goes green. However, the output, as you can see, it seems there was a problem with running the video creation workflow. Could you please provide more details? Specify. Okay. So what it did was it tried to run the n8n workflow tool, and obviously it failed because our sub workflow has nothing in it. So of course it failed. But what we want to do here before we head into the sub workflow is what we want to just make sure we complete this. Set a Telegram chat node, which is send text message in this case, back to the same chat ID. So I'm just going to drag this from the first trigger so that it's dynamic. And the text itself, basically, we're getting from the AI agent node. And apply markup none. One thing I want to do is just to toggle off the append and n8n attribution so it doesn't show on the chat. Authorization failed, of course, because I connected it to the wrong Telegram account again. I've got too many of those. So let's run that again. And if you go back to the Telegram, the message comes through here. It says, it seems there was a problem. Cool. All right, go back to the workflow. And now what we want to do is we want to go to the sub workflow. And the second node we want to hit here is really the OpenAI message model node. And the reason why I'm introducing it here is because I want an agent that goes into the Google form or the Google Sheet and draws out the latest URL link to the image, right? So in this case, I'm going to connect it with the Google Sheet tool. And basically, I want to grab the same sheet, which is image to video log sheet. And there's only one sheet, so I'm going to click on sheet 1. And there it goes. So I'm just going to connect that. And back to the OpenAI agent. I'm going to finish setting that up. In this case, I'm going to pick GPT 4.1. And for the system prompt, I've pre-written this here. Essentially, it's quite simple. Again, you can go to ChatGPT or LLM for your choice to generate a better one, but essentially I'm telling it that you're an assistant for video prompt and image to video generation. Your task is to output only the following two values in JSON format, which is number one, the prompt, the text prompt for the video, and an image URL of the image to generate the video. And I'm telling it that it can fetch this value from the last row of the attached Google Sheet tool. And why is it the last row? Because just in case you have a few else there, you want to make sure that it goes to the latest one. So I'm telling it that. And also just to make sure that it's returning the format correctly, I said return only these two fields in your response, formatted as JSON object. Okay. So I'm not going to hit execute step just yet because this is empty right now, so it's quite meaningless. So I'm going to go back to the main flow. I'm going to execute workflow again, but now I'm just going to reply to it here. The puppy is in a well-lit room and on top of a basket of laundry, and it slowly crawls out of the basket to get to its food. All right, so I'm going to hit that. All right, so it seems like it's trying to call the workflow, but unable to. So we're going to check what that is on the execution log of the sub workflow. So there was an error here. So something that I forgot to do earlier, what I did was I just refreshed the workflow inputs here so that it reflects the video generation prompt, and I'm going to let the model define this. So this is something that I forgot to do earlier and possibly the cause of the error. So I'm going to execute this again. Sorry, I'm going to go out and execute this node again. Let's see if it now successfully calls the sub workflow. Yep, there we go. So let's go to the sub workflow. And on the executions, we can see the data is coming in. And there you go. There is inputs here, which is create a video of a cute puppy in a well-lit room sitting on top of a basket of laundry. The puppy slowly crawls out of the basket to reach his food and starts adorably munching on puppy food. The scene is cozy and heartwarming. Great, okay. So the prompt is now successfully passed on to the sub workflow, and I'm just going to copy this to editor so it's easier. And this goes to the OpenAI agent node or message model node, and essentially it's going to pass this on now to a HTTP node. And where we want to go from here is we want to go to wavespeed.ai. And if this is a new platform for you guys, I have covered this in my previous video as well, and I'll link that up here and down here. But essentially, you can get signed in, and it's a pretty good platform for you to get API access to a lot of different models. If you were to look at the models that were available on this platform, you got the WAN 2.2, which is pretty new, and the Clink model. It's got the VO3 as well as the Seedance model as well. So in this case, you want to scroll down to image to video models so that you just get a list of all the possible image to video models here. And what I want to do in this case is just to pick one, and we're going to pick the Seedance model, and we're going to pick the 480 for now. And of course, you can get a higher resolution one if you want. And as you can see, this is the same image that I downloaded, but in this case, because it's just to show you guys how it all works together within the workflow, that's fine. So what I want to do is I want to head over to the API section and essentially import the entire curl command from the API section and go back to my workflow and import the entire curl. Cool, all right. Authentication, I already have this set up for the header auth. So it's generic credential type, header auth. If this is your first time using Wavespeed and you want to know how to get connected to the platform, I covered that in my previous video, so go check that out. It's pretty simple. It's like any other platform. Just copy the API key, paste it in, and you're good to go. Because we already set it up as a header auth here, we're going to toggle this off. We don't need that. And in terms of the JSON body, There are some values here, camera, whether it's a fixed camera or not, we don't care about that really. You can move around, doesn't matter. Duration, 5 seconds in this case, that's good for now. So where we want to pay attention to is really the image URL here, right? So where you want to grab the image from. And so you can see we have already the content for the video prompt generation, but there is something not going quite right here. And what I realized is that's because in the agent node, I didn't actually specify that the output of content needs to be in JSON, even though I kind of specified the same thing here. So just make sure that you toggle that on and hit the execute step again. As you can see now, it becomes just a very neat prompt variable and an image URL variable. Going back to the HTTP request node, what you want to do is you want to replace this image value with the image URL, and the prompt, we want to make it dynamic and drag this variable here. And now it has both the prompt and the image to work off from. So the API call is ready to go, and we're going to try execute step and see what it gives us. All right, so there you go. Basically what it's saying is that the post request is successful, and essentially they're getting the request and they're processing the video right now. So what we want to do in the meantime is we're going to wait 15 seconds. So as that's waiting, I'm going to configure the next node, which is the HTTP request get node in this case, and go back to the Seedance documentation and just copy the query result curl command. And what we're doing here, in case, again, this is the first time setting up API calls like this, essentially what we did was we did a post request here, and we're waiting because now it's processing the video. We said, hey, we wanted you to generate this video with this particular image, with this particular prompt. So they go, okay, good. They're processing the video, but we're going to wait. And after we wait, we want to get the result, which is the result of the video, right? And what we want to do is we want to import the entire curl. Again, the curl, I got it from the query result curl here. And essentially it gives me the API endpoint here. And what I want to do is replace this request ID with the ID that is directly from the wait node. And what I'm doing here is telling the GET request that, hey, I want to get the result of this particular video, but it needs to know which video, right? So I'm giving it the ID of the video request. All right, so authentication is going to be the same authentication, which is header auth, and which is a credential I've set up for wave speed. I'm going to toggle off the headers again because I already have set that up in the header auth, and I'm going to just hit execute step. All right, it's giving me all this data, and the status is completed, so we know we're good. And what we want to do here is, as you can see, there's an output URL link, so we want to check out what the video looks like. All right, so just paste that link, and it'll give you a downloaded video. So this is the video. And yeah, the puppy was in the laundry basket, jumps out, eats its food. Pretty adorable. Cool. All right, so heading back to the workflow, just gonna name this wave speed get, just so that we're clear what this does. And the previous node, the wave speed post. All right, so one is post and one is get. And what we want to do now is basically we want this to be pushed back to the Telegram chat, send a video, because we have this URL link, we just want it to be easily accessible, and the easiest way is to just send it back to the chat, right? So basically you can just chat with the agent and the workflow via your Telegram, and you don't really need to get in front of your computer at all. You can just do it all from your phone. So just make sure that we're connected to the right Telegram account this time, and a resource message, send video. The chat ID, again, there are two ways of doing this. You can obviously pass the chat ID from the main workflow, from the Telegram ID. But in this case, because we know that the chat is constantly going to be the same chat, I'm just going to go back to the master workflow, and I'm just going to literally copy the chat ID, which is in this case this number here, and go back I'm gonna paste that chat ID as a string, as numbers, right? And the video itself, we're gonna just drag the output URL file and put it into the video field with the reply markup none, obviously, and cool. All right, so I'm gonna hit execute step. And it successfully sent it to Telegram. So let's go back to our Telegram chat and see what happens. Yes, you can see the video is now sent to my Telegram chat. All right, that's pretty neat. Of course, there are a couple variations that you can do with the workflow. What you can do is you can continue and build out a workflow that automatically posts a video in your Instagram, TikTok, or your socials or YouTube, stuff like that. And I've covered how to automatically do that with a workflow in my other video, and I'll link it again below and right up here. So you can just basically copy and paste the entire workflow into this output, and you have an entire workflow where you basically just on Telegram tell the workflow that, hey, this is the image that I want you to work off from, and this is the idea of the video that I want to create, and they're going to do everything else, create the video, kicks it back to you, and you can say, yes, please go ahead, post it on my Instagram, or you can even skip that human in the loop part and have them automatically just post it on your Instagram, TikTok, and all your social channels, right? But yeah, so I thought I'll keep this one relatively short just to show you guys how this could all possibly work and get plugged into your Telegram. So I hope this is an interesting build for you guys. Let me know if you're facing any issues in any part of the build. Let me know what are the other ideas of other useful workflows that might work for your organization to make your life easier, or are just plain interesting to see me build. And I would love to just put all of that together. And as always, if you like the content, please consider subscribing. I'll see you in the next one.